I think where I'd love to begin is that I went on your Instagram
Yeah.
and I scrolled all the way to the bottom
Oh
because
my goodness.
like to the first post, and it was like in 2014.
Yes.
Yes. So the first post I saw on Instagram was in 2014. And I think it spoke to what I consider in my mind consistency and longevity. And when you, because it's almost 10 years next year, it will be
Yep.
10 years next year since at least you started posting on Instagram.
Yep.
And most of the stuff that you've posted about has been about jazz and has been about music.
Absolutely.
And I want you to just speak to me a little bit about that ability to find your passion and stick with it for that long. What has kept you coming back to this art form that you have found?
Well, I think it's something that I- I've found such a deep love and passion for.
Okay.
I'm very lucky to have found that. I began music lessons when I was 9 or 10. I can't really remember.
Right.
And before, my mom had put me in other things like Irish dancing. That did not stick. And music was sort of the one thing that I really enjoyed and I really looked forward to doing. And
Right.
I wasn't classically trained or anything like that. I was sort of just playing and singing the music that I enjoyed. And
Right.
that sort of freedom to choose what I wanted to sing and to how to express myself, I think helped me develop a love for the genre and for the art form.
Right.
And so jazz came along much later. I mean, if we're talking 2014, I was 16 years old. And I
Right.
mean, my Instagram is curated now. I definitely have deleted and archived many photos that were up there. And I think I originally started posting in 2012 when I was 14 years old. And,
Right. Right.
and nobody needs to see me when I was 14. That's fine. But when I was 16, I was in choirs in high school, and that sort of consumed a lot of my life. I had rehearsals for about 10 and a half hours a week in addition to music theory classes.
Right.
And I loved being surrounded by that. I mean, I enjoyed other topics in high school as well, like math and chemistry and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just constantly surrounded by music. So it didn't really make any sense to do anything else. And within that Instagram, you can see like choir trips to England and Banff and all that kind of stuff. Even Edmonton, we came and did Kiwanis here one year.
Okay.
And I think just making music has been something that's been very natural and very, I don't want to say easy because it's not necessarily easy, but it came to me very easily.
Right.
And so I've always enjoyed sort of developing that. And it doesn't really matter what topic or what genre I was singing in high school. It was a lot of chamber choir, concert choir.
Right.
But when I discovered jazz and improvising, I think that's when I really got the bug, as they say. And I dove in head first.
Yeah, for sure. That's remarkable. So, again, from all I've been able to see on your Instagram page, there was a picture of you. I forget her name now, but with a lady who had won a Juno at some point. You took a picture with a lady.
Oh, is that Divine?
Probably. And then when you won your first Juno, you had mentioned that you were voted most likely to win a Juno when you were coming off of high school.
Yeah.
And now fast forward all this many years, here you are with 2 Junos, and you're still going very strong and making music. So
yes.
I like when such things, when we start to look at, you might call it fate or serendipity and stuff like that. But when you get into those moments where you're able to make a callback to certain things that happened to you in the past and they're materializing in the present, how do you process that? Like, what do you feel when such stuff happens?
That kind of coincidence, I'll call it, has happened quite a lot. There are certain things that I have done in the past that have set me up for a lot of things that have helped me to get to where I am today.
Right.
Even signing to a record label, that came about because I started transcribing when I was in the second year of my university degree. I challenged myself to transcribe a jazz solo every single day for the month of May. So I started an Instagram account to hold myself accountable for that.
Right.
I ended up realizing transcription is a way that I can really get to learn this music a lot better. And it helped me understand the harmony and the language of music and helped me understand different players and how they speak using their horns. And it developed my ears and my theoretical knowledge very, very well. And so I started transcribing more and more and more. I started transcribing people that weren't dead. And and some of those people were on the label that I'm currently signed to. And so they had reposted me. My record label had seen these reposts.
La Reserve.
La Reserve,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And initially, La Reserve had followed me on Instagram. I followed them back because I thought, oh, a New York record label, that could be kind of cool one day.
Right.
I started self-releasing my own music. So I self-released my album No Bounds in 2020, 2021 is that sort of release schedule. And I was gaining a lot of popularity with the music. It was doing well on Spotify. I had gotten some placements on playlists, very prominent playlists. So I was doing well there. La Reserve had noticed this and they sent me a message saying, we really like what you're doing. Do you have anything ready? And I was studying at Humber, and I had recorded my capstone recording project, which was my EP, Now Pronouncing, which I arranged for my 10-piece ensemble.
Right, which you won a Grammy for.
Yeah, I won my
Juno for. Yeah. But that's okay. I'm speaking into your life right now. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Next year. But I had this project ready. It was fully mixed and mastered. It was ready to go. I had the album art designed. Everything was fine. Everything was perfect, ready to be released. I just didn't know when I wanted to. So they sent me a message because they had seen me posting about these things on Instagram, my transcriptions. I ended up actually having a project that was ready to go. And so we started working together. And so I signed to this label. I started getting all of these extra placements on different playlists in addition to Spotify. So places like Apple, Amazon, YouTube Music, these are all those kinds of things. Yeah. And I started making money off of that. Wow. And so then I used that money to fund extra projects. And so it's kind of interesting looking back that I had used my recording time at Humber. I had this project that I hadn't released yet. I had self-released another thing through trial and error. I had done things successfully with that. But also I had been transcribing. That gave me recognition to this record label that already had people on it that I really respected and looked up to. And so I find it kind of spooky, a little bit eerie that, I had these things that were sort of perfectly lined up. And I think about this a lot because this happens quite a lot in my life. Even working with Mark Lamacher, 2 years ago, 2021, this woman named Lisa Buck, who runs Buckingham Palace out of Calgary, she had asked me, do you want to do a concert for Buckingham in December? And I said, yes, absolutely. And she said, who would you like to do this with? And I said, well, I'm such a fan of Mark. I think he's a wonderful pianist and I'd really like to work with him. And so we did this gig, and within like 3 minutes of playing together during the rehearsal, the day of the show, it clicked automatically. Wow. And so we recorded an album. We just recorded a whole bunch of strings things together. So even that one decision, and I'm not really sure why I went that direction, but I did, and I'm glad I did. But it ended up, that led to some really fantastic things. And so sometimes I'm like, wow, I don't know what Caity 2 years ago was thinking, but I'm really glad she thought that way.
Right.
I'm very grateful that I thought that way.
Transcription. Talk to me about transcription, because the other Instagram account you had spoken about, I've gone on there. It's the most remarkable stuff ever. It's called Lift a Day, I think. Good stuff. But you have spoken in other places about the power of transcription and how. So, tell me what that process is. I don't even know what it is. I know that you are making this incredible scatting sounds and doing all this incredible runs, but tell me what it is and what it has done for your music.
Absolutely. Well, transcription, I guess the most basic way to say it is I am singing along to other people's solos, and I write down what they've done. I notate it musically. And I like working with instrumental solos a lot. I mean, I adore Ella Fitzgerald's improvising and Sarah Vaughan and Betty Carter and all those wonderful people. But I found that one of the best ways for me to really internalize the language is to get it straight from the source. So people like Charlie Parker, Hank Mobley, Sonny Stitt, Errol Garner, Oscar Peterson, all of these incredible musicians have such a beautiful language that they speak. And I think one of the best ways to learn the language is to listen to it and to, get it into your ears, essentially is what I'm saying. And so my process of transcription, I find it's easiest for me to learn a solo when I write it down. I'm sort of a visual person, and the whole idea of taking a pencil to manuscript paper and writing each note down helps me to memorize it. The process is very, very repetitive. So obviously I'll start at the beginning of the solo.
Right.
I'll listen to the first phrase, and then I will sing it back. I'll notate it. Sometimes I use a piano to help me with the notes, and
Okay.
just to speed up the process.
Right.
Sometimes I'll do it just ear-based, and
Right.
I will think about it intervallically or relate it to the key center of the song.
Gotcha.
But I'll get that first phrase, I'll go back to the beginning, I'll sing what I have. I listen to the next phrase, sing that, write it down, back to the beginning, sing what I have, listen, write down,
Right.
back to the beginning, listen, sing, write down, back to the beginning. And I do that until the entire solo is done.
Wow.
And it takes me about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to do about 32 bars of music, depending on the solo.
Okay. That's an intensive process.
Yes, and I do it all in one sitting.
Right.
I like to.
Right.
And then I sleep on it. And when I wake up the next morning, I have it memorized. And I'm not exactly sure how that works. So I can't exactly explain that process of learning. But for me, that's how it's done. And so then I have it memorized, and I film my video and I put it up.
Yeah, so that's so I understand scatting from like I understand the concept, but what I'm trying to find out is like the combination of what you say, like where I almost feel is like it's almost transcendent at some point. Like have you found at a point when you're doing that stuff just comes to you from like where do they come from? Like they just come, and it's so beautiful, but you're able to mold it and make it do what you want to do.
I think that regarding the scouting or the improvising, because I've spent so much time
Right.
exercising my ears, building that sort of musical muscle,
Right.
I'll say, I have developed a really good sense of hearing where the harmony is going to go. And so I can, especially if I know the song well, I can anticipate where it's going to go,
Right.
and I can build my improvisation to reflect where the music is going to go rather than reacting to it. So I think transcription has helped open my ears and given me the ability to be able to do that, to be able to hear how the harmony is changing.
Right.
And when I know a song very well, I don't have to wait and hear where the chord is going after it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I know where it's going to be. And so I know that I can improvise a melody that's going to suit the chords that are happening underneath.
Awesome.
If that makes sense.
Awesome.
But I mean, that has come from hours of transcription and becoming familiar with the harmony, because when I'm transcribing, not only am I becoming familiar with the language of the solo, but I'm becoming familiar with the harmony that accompanies it. And in this kind of music, a lot of the harmony is very similar from song to song, or there's a lot of patterns that you'll see, whether that's like a 2-5-1 or something.
Okay.
And so the songs and the harmony within the songs are very, very similar from song to song. I mean, it's like when you listen to pop music, it's typically like 4 chords that you hear on the radio.
True.
So you can kind of improvise and anticipate where things are going to go. And so I do the same thing, but with more chords and more progressions
Gotcha.
within the style that I like to sing in.
Gotcha. Let's talk about your current album.
Okay.
You've spoken about how you met Mark. But I want to. So you took me down this hole where I started to go look at all of this great composers from the Great American Songbook. Of all of them, you guys chose to Kern, right? He has like 600 songs to his credit. Like,
and we chose 9.
yeah. So I was very interested in that process. And how did you guys pare down when there was so much to choose from?
Yes. Well, one thing that makes it a little bit easier to choose from, I mean, his catalog is extensive.
Very
absolutely.
extensive.
A lot of it is from musicals. And so it's hard to take some of those songs out of context.
Right.
So that kind of works in our favor. There's
okay.
So a lot of
Gotcha.
the standards that I sing, for example, we're going to record another songbook album next week, actually, and we're doing the music of Frank Lesser.
Okay.
And there's a lot of tunes that stand alone and they can be related to, but there's music from musicals like How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying that you would not really want to include on an album necessarily. Like, a secretary is not a toy, no, I'm not gonna sing that one. Probably. Or happy to keep his dinner warm. I'm not probably not gonna do that one unless it's some sort of ironic thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But So that narrows it down a bit. I took a lot of inspiration from the Ella Fitzgerald songbook.
Okay.
She has all of her songbooks. She has a Jerome Kern one. So I was listening to that to gain a little bit of inspiration, because one thing I love about this music is that each person's interpretation of the music is going to be unique.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're talking about the songbook stuff that Ella does with strings and orchestras, I mean, we're a duo, so we're going to automatically be different than a lot of things. But with the Kern music, I look to lyrics a lot, and he worked with some very, very wonderful lyricists, including Dorothy Fields, who is absolutely one of my favorite lyricists. I think she's very clever. She's very witty. Her vocabulary is fantastic. And she's got the best rhymes. And I love her wit so much. I aspire to that sort of thing in my own songwriting and my own lyricism. And so a lot of the songs that I selected for the album were Dorothy Fields lyrics, like A Fine Romance. That's a funny one. Or April Fooled Me, which was actually written by Kern, and then he passed away. And so it was never finished. And then Jerome Kern's widow married a man named George Byron, who had then he reached out to Dorothy Fields and asked her to write lyrics after Kern had passed away. And so that's how those lyrics were made. And I love that song actually quite a lot. But then there were songs on the album like Bill, and that's from Showboat, so that's a Hammerstein II lyric.
Right.
And I didn't choose that one. Mark wanted to do that one. And I thought, okay, I don't really know this one, but now I love performing that one. It's a ton of fun.
And the lyrics to Bill is just incredible, right?
So
like
funny.
I was listening to it on the bus recently on my headphones, and it was just enthralling, right? Like it's almost like unconditional type love type stuff.
Yeah, unconditional, but she still has this sort of resentment towards him and how he looks and how he acts, but it doesn't really matter because for some reason she seems to like him.
Yeah. Okay. So the last song on the album, Bartender, I understand that it's in a certain way a response to a certain type of commentary about you, and I'm like, I was in terms of so in hip hop you would say you have, like, you're responding to a beef or something. And I'm like, this is the mildest beef ever in the history of music. But talk to me about the need to want to respond to that and how you do it in your own way.
Well, my own way is definitely very passive aggressive. But within that, I have sort of this stage that I've set up for myself with my ability to release music, and I guess some people listen to it. So I wanted to include this because I wanted to stand up for myself. And of course, I'm not gonna go up to any of the people that talk about me this way and be like, why would you say that? So I do it in my very
in your own way.
And so I wrote The Bartender because after I had won my first Juno, I had received a lot of I shouldn't say a lot of, there was a lot of support, I should say. But there were also comments about my age, my perceived lack of skill,
which is not true, by the way, but go ahead.
Thank you. I don't think it's true.
It's not, certainly not. But
and I'm comfortable saying that now, but I didn't really even post about the Junos or my experience with them because I'd seen a whole bunch of things online and I'd heard about what people had said, and I was really hurt because the people that had talked to that had said things like this were very, very nice to me before I had won. And I've since run into some of those people, and it's been very tense, icy conversations, which is funny to me in a way. But I wanted to stand up for myself in a way that I believed in, which is through music, and in a way that other people would hear. And I thought, adding this to an album, knowing my track record with releases and having them be heard, this is a good way for me to get my point across in a way that's sort of like telling these people, no, I think I did actually deserve this.
For sure.
I'm proud of what I accomplished. And so I made The Bartender, and I decided to base it off of an old fashioned. The lyrics are a recipe for an old fashioned, which is one of my absolute favorite cocktails. And then that's just sort of a commentary on just, somebody being old fashioned and not accepting the new generation.
Right.
But it's it was really challenging to see that from people I had really, really respected and I really looked up to, and to have that sort of crushing reality that no, not everybody's
Mhm.
rooting for you,
Yeah, for
as
sure.
it seemed when you're in school, or as it seemed when people could get something out of you.
Right, right, right.
It was a wake up call, but I'm in a way I'm grateful for it,
Mhm.
because now I've got thicker skin, and I am less naive in that sense,
Right, right.
and I'm I'm happy about that.
At some point, you had a 10 person band, right?
Yes, yeah.
And now you're working with a four. Is it four?
I love working with my
A
quartet.
quartet.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the space of making music and all of that, there's so many aspects to it. But you have grown into leadership in a certain sense, right? How are you able to create the music? Okay, it's easy to not easy, but you make the music. But again, the leadership aspect of that. How have you grown into that? Being able to manage like a band.
Well, I've always sort of been a band leader in my own way. As a singer, I wasn't often I was called for gigs as like a side person, but mostly like, since the singer is the front person, typically I am the band leader. I'm the one
Right,
handling
right.
the checks. I'm the one paying everybody. I'm the one getting the charts ready. All of that kind of stuff. I'm Every day I grow more and more and more comfortable with that.
Right.
I like to challenge myself with sort of different settings of ensemble. And so I quartet, I do a lot, especially on gigs. It's easy to get a quartet up. I have a lot of arrangements that I've made that are specifically for quartet. But the band leading stuff, it's a lot of fun for me. I am definitely a lot more confident in it now that I have I have a book. I have dozens and dozens of songs that I've written.
Right.
People request those songs, which is nice.
Right.
I've got all of my arrangements. I try to make a group sound, and I take a lot of pride in my group and
Right.
having it sound a certain way, look a certain way. Like, my band is always in suits
Right.
or equivalent. Like a nice dress or something like that. I don't want people showing up to the gig in jeans. I don't want people showing up to the gig in a t-shirt.
Right. Right.
I have certain standards that I like my group to meet. I need them to be on time. I've become a lot more strict with that. And through the years, my call list, I should say, of people that I like to hire has decreased quite a bit, just based on how professional people are. And so there's very few people that I will work with. Not will work with. There's very few people that I trust enough to play my music the way
Right.
I'd like it to be played.
Right.
And I'm lucky that those people seem to enjoy playing with me, so they say yes to my gigs. But I've grown confident in the fact that I am a band leader. I'm paying people good. I think it's good money.
Good.
I'm providing like opportunities to work, to travel, all that sort of thing, and I'm very proud that I'm able to do that. I'm really grateful that I'm at a space where I can do that, and where my band is going to be, treated well. I think I earn respect for the shows that I put on,
Right.
and I like to take pride in what I do, and I like my band to take pride in what they do. And I think they would only be able to take pride in that sort of thing if the music is polished and the stages are nice and the sound is good. And so I think there's sort of a nice like reciprocity for my group and I. And I mean, when there are issues, I'm the one who takes care of them, and that's fine. Like,
Right.
I had a gig where I was naive and did not discuss the fee beforehand.
Right.
And it was quite a lot less than what I thought. And it's challenging when you have relationships with certain places and you don't want to lose those relationships. And so I lost money on that gig. But I would rather I lose money and my band still get paid well and treated well and in a nice hotel and on a nice train and all that kind of stuff, than for me to be thinking, oh, well, I need to take something because I'm the band leader. No, I want my band to be taken care of first, and then we'll work on what I'm getting out of
Well,
it.
that's leadership right there.
Absolutely. And I really love working with the people that I work with, and I don't want to lose those people.
Yeah.
And so I treat them well, and they play my music well, and I'm grateful for that.
You're a prolific writer.
Thank you.
If we were to circle back to at the point where La Reserve contacted you and you talk about this amazing place that you were in and you already had so much material, like has that being prolific and being able to write as much material as you do, has that always been a thing? Like, do you just write and just store away for like a rainy day? Like you just keep writing?
Yeah, I write all the time. Sometimes it's hard to find the time to be able to sit down and work on something at a piano.
Right.
Because I like to write at the piano.
Right.
But I have my notes app. I have my voice memos. There's a lot of ideas in there. And usually if I have an idea, like a harmonic idea, I'll scat through it because I won't be able to know like exactly which chords I want. But if I can scat through the harmony, then I can play it on piano and say, okay, that's what I did there. So this is the chord I'm outlining. And then I can figure out the harmony that way. Or I'll have my melody and then I'll outline the chord that I want with arpeggios, like based on like if there's a specific note that I'd like to have like sort of a nice chord under, I'll sing the chord and then I'll sing the note that I want.
Right.
And the lyrics, I mean, I spend a lot of time on my lyrics.
Right.
I'm a big fan of lyric writing. And so I have physical books that I use. I use my voice memos app for that. I use my notes app for that on my phone. So there's a lot of different techniques I use to write. I'm always writing. I'm always looking for inspiration for writing.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I love to write.
That's good.
I think I'm very lucky in that sense that I can sort of
not you don't only love, but you're able to, right? Because I think there's a difference there to be able to write lyrics to the music. I think that's good, and they're really really good as well.
Thank you. I'm very judgmental when it comes to lyricism. And so I try to hold myself in a high regard with that sort of thing. And I have high standards for myself. Even like with rhyming, I'm like, oh no, that's a weak rhyme. I don't want to do that. Or I can't rhyme that with that because that's not going to be strong enough. Or that there's a better word for that. I don't want to use that word. I'm always on the hunt for interesting vocabulary words and that sort of thing, and
it's
interesting ways to say
sure.
lyrics, because there's a million ways to say I love you, but it's trying to find the creative ways that people haven't really thought of yet, and that's where the challenge comes in, and that's the challenge that I love to try and tackle.
For sure. So okay, I need to ask you this. So going into the Junos, the first one you won, it may have come as a surprise to you, but when you were writing featuring, which is the you won best vocal jazz album. Okay. But when you were writing featuring, did you have an expectation for that you were going to win?
That's a very good question. And nobody's asked me that question before, so I haven't had to be honest about it. But after we had finished the recording session that day, and there was a lot of things with that recording session that I wish had gone differently, and there was some things I wasn't too happy with. But when we shut down Pro Tools and I had everything on the hard drive, I said to the group it said to the rhythm section, I'm like, this is the Juno winner, because when I recorded featuring, I hadn't won my first Juno yet.
Okay.
And so, and I didn't think I was going to win the first one, to be honest. But then we finished recording featuring that one day, and I said to everyone, this is the Juno winner. So nobody's asked me that before. That sounds very pretentious, and like I have a huge ego. But I was
no. I don't think it is at all. I don't think it is at all, because it's such a great. So now let's get into featuring, because the first song on featuring, which is I Feel Foolish. If we're talking about lyricism and we go back, the cadence on that song, it almost sounds like what a rapper would do. Like there are places where you are, I'm like this is so good, and it's so witty, and you're doing it in such a cadence. And so talk to me about the choices made on that song and how it came out that way.
That one came out in probably about 20 minutes. And so that one was very easy to write for some reason. It just happened. And that happens with a lot of my songs. Some of them take a little bit more time. Typically I write in one session, but I Feel Foolish. The one thing that I'm not stoked about with that is the bridge, which I do love the bridge and I like the lyrics, but I rhymed me with me, which is not a real rhyme. And
right.
Over time I've realized I need to stare into your eyes if you were going to see the real me. But over time I've realized that requires some compromise between confidence and diffidence in me. So, but I figured, you know what, I'll take the hit for that one, because I like that requires some compromise between confidence and diffidence in me, and I like that.
Right.
But that one was fun. That one I wrote with the I feel foolish. Like I wrote it with the hits in mind. So I already had the arrangement written as I was writing it. And so I'm trying to remember what are the lyrics in that one. I sing that one a lot because I get requested that one.
Because it's such a good song.
Thank you.
I'm sure that's why you get that much request from that.
It's a ton of fun, and I love singing quickly. I always joke my mother's an auctioneer, so that's probably why I'm able to do this. So I had all of those like Betty bought a bus, you know, that kind of stuff, like all of these different
for sure
that I would do as a kid. But I also talk very quickly, and so I think also my brain's always at a mile a minute. So
right.
That one was it came to me very easily. It's very hard to describe that sort of thing. Sometimes the lyrics just like they're there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of scary. I'll be writing something and then I'm like, oh no, that's really good. And the words just keep coming out. And I'm like, what is I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not gonna fight it because I like what's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's very challenging to describe. It's sort of an otherworldly sort of feeling.
If we go back to Now Pronouncing.
Yeah.
There's a song in there, A Certain Someone.
Oh yeah. From No Bounds.
Sorry.
No.
My
There's
bad.
so many.
Yeah. Okay. No Bound. A Certain Someone. And I think I watched the video of you trying to give some context to it. Where you spoke about the categories of people you were trying to write for.
The barista, the friend, my cat.
Pico, right?
Yes. Pico.
Yeah. Okay. And for me, when I was listening to you explain that, I said when I got the opportunity to talk to you, could a certain someone be a place? Because when I because there's a little window in my life that I always think about with so much nostalgia. So I was going to ask you, would a place fit into that description? Okay.
Oh my gosh, I never even thought about that before. Yes, 1,000% yes. That's a beautiful way to think about it. Actually, that's way better than what I wrote.
Come on. No, but I do love the song. I love the sentiments behind it because it's just so, again, I think one of your genius is being able to write at such a relatable level. So that spoke to me from that album. Okay.
I really like that perspective. That's wonderful. That would be a nice topic to write a new song on.
Okay.
So maybe I'll give you a writing credit.
Oh, that would be, oh my God. See my name on a pack of a vinyl. That'd be crazy. But yes, so there's so much sides to you. I don't think we can go into all of them today, but I'm a
Gemini, so
I want to speak about your ability to, like, your savviness with tech and marketing and strategy and all of that stuff. I know it's key and it's important to the work that you do right now. What space does that take up in all that you do?
Well, I'm trying to be fairly active on my social media pages. I have to admit, in the recent year, I've been so burnt out from it. Because over the pandemic, I went really hard with the social media. I mean, there was not really much else to do. But then when things started becoming, a little bit less closed off, and I started touring a lot more and getting writing grants and all that kind of stuff. I had to prioritize those sort of things because, I mean, the social media is very important, and I love posting on it, and I love connecting with people through social media. I adore that. But sometimes it can be challenging, especially when I've got like a couple weeks off maybe, and you see other people's gigs, and you're like, well, I want to be doing that, and the comparison is just
I know it's
crippling.
Tell me about it. I know.
But no, the social media stuff, that was all sort of trial and error for me. Less error than I thought, which is nice. But I did a lot of social media stuff with my first few releases, a lot of pre-save campaigns, because I wanted to spread awareness about the music. And I realized pretty quickly that people are not going to do something out of the goodness of their heart. Typically, they're going to do something if you give them something to do it. And so I started incentivizing my releases, and I said, if you pre-save this, then I'll do this. So with No Bounds, with postage due, if they pre-saved, and they sent me their address, I would send them a handwritten postcard in the mail. And that was actually really nice to do. And that happened right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I had all this time to actually be able to do that.
Right.
I couldn't even dream of doing that
Doing
right
it
now.
Yeah.
And then there was another one with, what was the song? I can't remember. Bye Bye Blackbird. For those who pre-saved, I would post on my Instagram story a picture of a bird that made me think of them. And I'm a bird watcher. And I have my Canon, and I go out and take photos. So I had all of these photos of birds that I've taken, and I don't post them anywhere. So I thought this could be a fun way to actually post the photos that I've taken while also letting people have this bird. And people love to know what you think about them.
Right.
And so it's like those BuzzFeed quizzes, like what kind of spaghetti sauce are you? You know, and you like answer these personality questions, and you find out that you're like Alfredo or something. So I essentially did that because I knew just from interacting with people love to know what you think about them, and people love to get things for free. People love when other people do things for them. And so I took that sort of idea and included that with my marketing, and it worked very, very well. And then I started gaining more of a following, and now I don't really do the pre-save campaigns much anymore.
Right.
I still believe in them. I think they're a good idea. They're fun to do. They're a great way to build excitement about the release. But at this point, I have releases coming out every few months, and it's exhausting to always be doing campaigns.
Yeah, for sure.
I truly believe in it. I think social media marketing is it's a huge reason as to why I am successful, it's what I think is successful. Anyway, successful is relative.
It's okay. You are successful. You're
trying to be humble at the same time as the Canadian in me.
Confident. That's good. It's a good attribute, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it does get exhausting.
Right.
But I mean, there's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
I guess.
Your like, what kind of deal do you have with La Reserve right now? Because at the time, I think I listened somewhere where you were talking about like you were doing just fine, but they came along and the opportunity to expand into new markets was there.
Yeah.
But talk to me about that relationship and what it has done for your career.
Well, I hate using the word like, oh, we're like a family, because usually that's like some sort of corporate nonsense. But those two, Matt and Jacob Block, they're brothers, have changed my life in so many different ways.
Right.
They have, they release my music globally. People are listening all over the world.
Right.
They've introduced me to so many incredible people and connections. The people that are on the label are people that I really look up to, and they're people that now I consider friends. Like when I was playing at Birdland last month, my friend Charles Owens, who's a fantastic tenor player out of Richmond, Virginia, happened to be in town. And I said, come in and sit in with me.
Yeah.
And so I got to play with Chaz and return the favor for when he let me sit in with him at Smalls last year.
Right.
So I have a release coming out with a wonderful singer named Martina Da Silva, who's in New York.
Okay.
And that's coming out in January. And I'm so grateful I got to do that because she's wonderful. And so I've been introduced to all these incredible people, and I've gotten all of this recognition on streaming platforms. And I know that that's a very controversial topic, but I will say that it feels pretty good to, be listened to in over 180 countries.
Absolutely.
I will say that those two care so much about the music. Matt and Jacob care so much about the music, and they care so much about their artists, and they always go to bat for their artists. If they're not happy with how a release went and they think that something somebody else could have helped, they will send an email to that person and be like, why didn't this happen? Or blah, blah, blah. They have a wonderful person on the team named Matt Helm, who does these beautiful stories about the music. So whenever I have a release coming up, I talk to Matt Helm about it, and Matt pens a story for a press release for me. I've got a wonderful publicist that I get to work with through La Reserve named Hannah Block, and she is fantastic and helped me so much, especially after the Junos. And I go down to New York and I get to hang out with them, and it doesn't seem transactional at all. It just seems like everybody's trying to just we're trying to help each other out. We're growing together. I mean, the amount of success this label has achieved in like the few years that I've been on it is just remarkable. Like I feel like they were always very, very successful, but just the rate of growth is just insane. They're
Right.
doing so well. And I'm so grateful that I get to be a part of
Yeah,
it,
for
really.
sure. For sure.
They're wonderful people. My deal with them is fantastic. I have a distribution deal.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so what that means, if people don't know, that is I pay to have all my music made. I own my masters. They distribute it for me. They take a cut, but
Yeah.
I still own everything, and I'm a big fan of owning my music.
Okay.
I think there's pros and cons to every sort of thing. I mean, the con here is that I have to pay for everything, but really, I don't mind it because I find it's an investment in myself. I love to make these projects. I'm happy to spend the money to make these projects, and
Right.
luckily in Canada we have access to grants, and so the Canada Council for the Arts was key for me to be able to do featuring, and
Right.
I'm going to be applying for a few more grants to hopefully do an orchestral album next year.
Right.
And so my last couple albums I've funded myself, which is something that I wouldn't have been able to do without Matt and Jacob,
Right.
who have gotten me wonderful success across the streaming platforms, which has in fact, turned into money, real money. And that's what funds my what my brother calls my vagabond lifestyle.
Vagabond. No, that's great because most of the time, when you look at independent artists and when they try to get their careers off the ground, even when you're able to be independent and there's all of this technology to help you, I find in my experience talking to people that the workload is just extreme to try and pull it all together.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you have in whatever capacity, but if you have a group of people who are rooting for you and helping alleviate some of that burden, then it's a win.
It's incredibly I don't know. I don't have the words for it just because I feel so incredibly grateful to have people rooting for me. Like Matt and Jacob have believed in me when I really didn't believe in, not that I didn't believe in myself, but they were confident we'd win the Junos both times. And I thought, well, no, I'm just excited. I'm just thrilled to be nominated. And they're like, of course you're nominated, Caity, but you're going to win it too.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, no, I don't know. Everybody else is really wonderful. And I mean, at that point, it's just, I don't even know how people choose those things because everyone in the categories that I've been nominated in are just so fantastic. And just wonderful. But they've always been very, very confident about that stuff. And they're like, no, Caity, this is what you're doing. Blah, 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 blah. Like they're thinking, no, we will submit for the Grammys and all this kind of stuff. And we didn't get nominated this year, but we were on the ballot. And that's not something that I thought was going to be possible for a while, but they were confident. They're like, no, you're going to be on the ballot. And so that kind of thinking and that kind of drive to have that on my side is pretty good.
For sure. So 2 Junos and all of this music all of this catalog that you have and all of this music that you're working towards releasing, I can't help but think that but the music that you've put out or originals are one day gonna become standards. Like people are gonna actually start to record that stuff and look back because they are that good. Do you ever think about yourself in that light to say, okay, I found my space in this genre, and at some point my music is gonna have the longevity that all of these people who I admire do have?
Well, I actually do think about that. I get emails like at least a couple times a week from people wanting to get a chart from me and my music. I'm thrilled to be able to say that it's been sung all over the world for a lot of students from different universities all across the world have asked me for my chart so they can do it on their recitals or on their gigs, and
that's remarkable.
It's really, really cool. And so one of my projects that was supposed to be for 2023, but I guess it's a 2024 project, is to compile a book of my compositions so far.
Okay.
And then be able to sell that like online because I get so many requests for these charts. And I mean, I love that people want to play them. On another hand, I will say that if there's people who want one of my charts that are listening to this, it's incredibly beneficial to transcribe a chart. There's a lot of Blossom Dearie recordings that I love, and there's standards that she does that are challenging to find charts for. And so what I will do is not ask Blossom Dearie for the chart because she is no longer with us. And also I would not be, she's not going to answer me probably. But what I will do is I will sit down at the piano with the music in my headphones, and I will figure out the bass line, and then I'll figure out the chords, and then I'll transcribe the melody. And at that point, I've learned the song really, really well.
Right.
And so there's been people who have actually, transcribed my charts before, and then they send me an email and they say, I transcribed your chart. Can you just verify this for me and let me know if there's anything that I did incorrectly? Right. And I adore that. I'm happy to receive any sort of email because it means that people took the time they cared enough about the music to actually learn it.
Good.
And that means so much to me. But sometimes I get emails that are like, I don't have time to learn your music. Can you send me the chart? And I'm like, no, I honestly don't even respond to those things. I get a lot of emails. I get very overwhelmed when I get a lot of emails. And so those are the ones where I'm like,
it's easy. It just makes it easy not to respond.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think that if you want to sing a song, you should care about the song enough to learn the song. And when I'm learning music, I'm listening to different versions of the songs, and I'm transcribing different versions, and I learn the lyrics. And I hate reading on gigs. I do not like to read music on my gigs. I don't like to have my sheet music up because I want to be at a point with the song where I know it by heart, so I can really, really convey the message of the song.
Right.
And I can engage with the audience, and then they know that I know it, and that my perspective and my take on it is unique, and it is very well thought out. And so I think like I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the music that I've written.
Yeah.
I hope that people will continue to play it and sing it. I'm glad that it resonates with people, really. And so I think the next step for me is to make my book.
Right.
But it is kind of, the first time it happened was sort of a surreal thing to get asked for a chart. And I was like, oh my God, of course. And here's it in a different key if you want it. And so it's, it's very special to have other people wanting to interpret my music.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Again, there's really so much to talk about. And I think I want to thank you because like the genre itself, like my playlist has expanded, not because I didn't listen to jazz before, but just coming into your music and just reading about your story, like my playlist has expanded, and I have you to thank for that.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And your music has led me to all of this great, amazing people, going back to the songbook, and it's expanded my what you might call musical palette.
Oh, well, that means a lot to me.
Right, yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that.
So thank you so much. I think you execute music at a very high level.
Thank you.
The proficiency with which you do it is just remarkable.
Thank you so much.
I know that you've had mentors across your career so far. Speak to that. Speak to the power of mentors in your life, people who have come before and who are in the room with you, kind of like, just having that presence there. What does it do?
Well, there's a lot of people that I'm very grateful to have in my life, or to have had in my life, if maybe I haven't seen them in a while. When I was at Humber College, I studied with a woman named Lisa Martinelli, and Lisa was really, really fantastic in helping me gain better technique.
Right.
And so that was a really nice mentoring sort of thing. I mean, she was my private lesson teacher, but we talked about a lot more than just music. Mike Downs was also one of those people when I was at Humber, and I was in a couple of his ensembles, and it was always nice to have him, like include vocal parts in his chamber music. And I love to sing that kind of thing. A lot of my mentorship sort of began when I was in my master's degree, actually.
Right.
And so Christine Jensen is one of those people.
Right.
Christine is just such a fantastic force. And I studied with her at McGill, but when she's in Montreal and I'm in Montreal at the same time, we typically will go out and get coffee or something. And it's nice to be able to have somebody to speak to about, certain things that are happening in the music industry. But also Christine, she was very wonderful about expanding my I guess musical palette with harmony and that sort of thing. But she was never, and the music that she writes, I'm a huge fan of. I absolutely adore her music. It's not the kind of music that I write. It's different. I mean, there's so many subgenres in jazz, but Christine always gave me the she never told me not to write a certain way. Whereas I had other teachers that said, "Oh, well, this is kind of like basic, or it's sort of like songbooky. It's been done before."
Right.
But that's what I love to do.
Right.
I don't want to always be, thinking of the next thing. I mean, there's other people that are doing that already. They can do that. I'm happy with where I am. And so Christine was really fantastic about letting me be where I was, but just opening my eyes to new perspectives on how to I don't want to say improve, but how to go about creating in the space that I was in.
Right.
And of course, I studied with Renee Lee, and Renee was wonderful when I was signing with the record label because she was on, she's on a record label. And so I had so many questions about that with her, and she was fantastic about that. Lila Bialy's another mentor of mine. And I would say she's a friend as well. And we check in with each other with voice memos all the time. And I am such a fan of her. I think she's one of the hardest working musicians, definitely in the country, if not the world. She is fantastic at everything she does. She's a fantastic composer, and I love that her music has her sound. Like I know when it's a Lila Bialy arrangement, I know when it's a Lila Bialy song, and I've seen her perform multiple times, and I'm just always just starstruck and very amazed at how incredibly cohesive and tight the band is. And she leads it so beautifully. And the ideas are always so fresh. And I'm such a fan of her. And I love exchanging ideas on music marketing and that kind of stuff with her. And she's just been such a huge support for me. And I couldn't be more grateful to have her in my life. I adore Lila Bialy. And there's another sort of mentor. I took a really wonderful musicology elective when I was doing my master's degree, and I studied. I did this feminist topics in musicology course with Lisa Barg, and she's a wonderful professor at McGill. And her and I go bird watching together in Montreal, and we talk about feminism in the music and birds and all that kind of stuff. And she's been really wonderful to have in my life, and I'm very grateful for her. And she just actually released a really fantastic book on Billy Strayhorn, and she had asked me to transcribe some things for her for that. So I'm actually in a book, which is kind of neat. My transcriptions are. And she also was so fantastic in getting me the opportunity to write for a published magazine, which was really, really something that I never thought I'd do, because I'm really not much of an academic, and taking her course was terrifying for me. So much reading. I mean, usually I'm writing, I'm not reading. I always joke that I'm illiterate. I know I'm. But I noticed that a lot of these people are women, and it's wonderful to have people like that in my life, because I can see myself reflected with them. And the mentorship is huge. It can be very easy to feel alone in this industry. I think in any industry, but the music industry is so cutthroat, and there's so much competition. I don't really feel any sort of competition. I'm just grateful for the support that I receive, and to receive it from musicians that are such powerhouses is really quite phenomenal.
Right. Okay. And now that you're able to, I understand you've done some work in the Yukon in regard, but now that you're able to teach, what are you looking out for in a student? What makes a student special? When you find them,
I love to teach. When I'm in the Yukon, it's a ton of fun. I get to work with so many wonderful people, and the students that I'm working with in the Yukon are all around at least 15 years older than me. And so I love working with adults. I'm hoping that the student is coming to me with questions, because I don't know what to do if they're like, I don't know what to do. Because when I was a student, I came in with questions, and I think that's how you learn. I mean, I have my students sing for me, I have them ask their questions, and then I listen to what they're doing, I listen to what they can improve on, and then I suggest things based on that.
Right.
But to come in with questions or to come in with goals saying, I have an audition, I need to work on this piece, and I'd love your feedback on it.
Right.
That's ideal. That sort of thing. Or I'm not really sure what this theoretical concept is. Maybe we could go over this. Perfect.
Right.
There has to be a clear goal, because if a student's coming in to a lesson with me and they're saying, I don't know what to work on, what do you think I should work on?
Right.
I have no idea what their goals are. I think it's with anything you do, it's good to have goals, and it's good to have an idea of the objective you'd like to achieve.
Right.
And so, ideally, it's also great for the student to be able to sing. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a good place to end our conversation would be the Christmas single that you just put out.
Oh yeah, I love it. I'm in love with that recording.
Like it's on constant rotation in my home. So
it's mine too.
Okay.
If I can say that.
I guess this is your first Christmas single?
No, last year I released an EP of just 3 songs from Mark and I's first time playing together.
Okay.
And I released those on Spotify. So there's just 3 tunes. We did What Are You Doing New Year's Eve, Christmas Time Is Here, and the Christmas song.
Okay.
And so we released that last year, but this is the first original one. And the other one was taken from a live gig, so it wasn't so much a recording session.
Okay.
This one was like a big production.
Okay. So what's you said you worked with strings, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So what was the process going into, and how different is it to be in that Christmas kind of sentiment? Like, how do you translate that into a jazz song?
Well, I think it's very easy to do that, because a lot of people, around the holidays, they hear the music on the radio and then it's swing, and you can actually hear an upright bass and a piano solo on the radio, on pop radio, which is unheard of. It's my favorite time of year because I get to hear the instrumentation I like.
Right.
And so I wrote the song in November of 2022, I think. Yes.
Okay.
And so I was sort of already in the holiday spirit. It had probably snowed in Montreal at that point. And so I get very sentimental when the snow is falling gently through, like by the window of my apartment. And so I wrote the song, and it's another one of those situations where it just kind of happened, and the song was fine. And Mark and I played it on our duo gig at Buckingham. We do this gig. It's a traditional gig, or not. I shouldn't say traditional. It's a holiday tradition that we do. We do this gig, and we played it as a duo, and I liked it.
Right.
And then I won my second Juno, and Mark called me up a week later, and he said, let me arrange something for you. Because I guess he thought maybe I wouldn't hire him anymore now that I won another Juno, but who knows? It's crazy. And I said, okay, yeah, but I'm going to commission you to do this. I can probably budget this much money. Knowing this, like, would 10 strings be enough? And he said, yeah, 10 strings would be enough, knowing he knew that it wouldn't be enough.
Right.
And so I commissioned him for 3 songs. One of them was Perfect Time of Year, my holiday song.
Okay.
And I booked the studio time for August. And so, but I didn't know what anything sounded like. He made these arrangements, but they were a surprise, and I didn't get to hear them until I heard the strings in August. So we recorded the bass, the drums, the piano, and the voice first, because Mark was also conducting and playing, and you can't really do those at the same time.
Right.
And so we recorded those 2 weeks in advance. So I had just, I had these tracks that were kind of like shells. They didn't have all the good stuff yet. And then 2 weeks later, I went into the studio expecting to see 10 strings. And then there were 15 strings and a clarinet.
Oh.
And that was like a surprise.
Whoa, yeah, for sure.
Which was insane. And so the first tune we did was Perfect Time of Year.
Yeah.
And I could not believe it.
It's so lush. It's so full.
Gorgeous.
It's so I know.
No, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
I think the arrangement is absolutely perfect. And so I cried. And then I took a video and I sent it to Matt and Jake from La Reserve.
Right.
And they were, I don't know if I can swear on this, but
go ahead.
They just replied, holy shit. And I was like, I know, I can't believe it. And so I was just at the studio that day. I I wasn't doing anything. I was just there. I brought some croissant for people, and I brought the coffee. But I was just like sitting there, like in awe the whole time. I
Right.
couldn't believe it.
Right.
I'm like, I can't believe this is happening right now. And we did 3 songs, but the perfect time of year. Every time I hear that, I'm just blown away. I'm like, I can't believe that this is my music. I can't believe that it's like I've talked about this a little bit before, but it's an incredibly special feeling to get to hear your music in a way that you never thought possible.
Right.
And that was this, because I've never arranged for strings before, nor would I ever want to, now that I know that Mark can do what he can do. And so
Right.
I just never imagined it sounding so spectacular. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And I think maybe my kind of last question, although I might jump back to something else, but I always love asking artists this. Like, when do you know a record is done?
Well, for me, there's always things to improve on, but after the recording session's done, after that studio day is done, I'm like, well, we recorded it, and so those are the takes we're using.
Right.
And because when I record, I'm not doing edits. I record with my band so that we can't really do punches. Everything is live,
Right.
just as Ella Fitzgerald would have done.
Right.
So I choose the takes I like, and I guess the record's done when it's mastered and the album art's ready and it's uploaded. For me, I like to think about it sort of as, here's where I am now. So happy that we did this. Let's go on to the next one.
Gotcha.
And so, and I've been doing a record a year. I mean, I recorded a new record in June. That's coming out July this year.
Okay.
Mark and I are recording a new record next week, and I'm not even sure when that's going to come out. And then hopefully we'll be doing the orchestral album, and that'll come out in 2025. And
busy.
I have, like, all the music it's written.
Right.
And so it's ready to go. So, I do one record and I'm like, this was really fun. Okay, what are we doing next? So I'm always on to the next thing. And I'm grateful that I have that sort of drive, because I think if I didn't, I would implode.
Right. Okay, so let's look to the future. Again, you've spoken extensively about all the music that you have coming out, but like I know a Grammy is on the way, but beyond that, like, what is it that you're looking forward to?
Touring more. I've been so fortunate to be able to see a lot of the world through music.
Right.
I was in Japan in April for 2 weeks. That was incredible.
Whoa.
I toured all across the United States this time last year, and I've been back since, with my own group. I've been all across Canada. I'm hoping Europe is the next stop for me. I've been to Mexico a few times for music. So I this might not be the most exciting answer, but really I'm living my dream life right now. I'm recording, I'm touring, I'm writing, I'm singing. I would just like this to keep happening.
Right.
So, I mean, the awards are wonderful, and of course I'll keep submitting for everything. And it would be nice to receive them. But what I'm doing right now, I mean, nobody can take away my 2 Junos. I got them. They sit on my dresser in my apartment in Montreal.
Nice.
They're named Juno and Bruno. And
lovely names.
Thank you. The first one's not super original, but Bruno is pretty good.
It had to rhyme, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I count myself very lucky. I say this quite often. I'm living my dream life. I don't have a day job. Music is entirely what I do. It sustains me. I'm able to keep up my habit of vintage dresses, which is a very unhealthy habit for my bank account, but very, very good for the heart and the soul.
And you do look really good.
Well, thank you. No, I'm very content with how things are going, and if they just keep going in the direction that they're going in, I think that my life will be perfect.
Well, I think that's as good as any notes to end this. Caity, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for
so
making
much.
really incredible music. I'm going to circle back to welcome you again to Edmonton. I'm going to be at your show tonight. I can't wait to see you perform live.
I hope you enjoy it.
I'm certain I will. But yeah, it's been just remarkable getting to learn about you and listening to your music and all of the successes that have come your way. I strongly believe has come through an incredible work ethic
Thank you.
and mastering of the craft. So
Thank you.
keep doing that. We're going to keep rooting for you, and I hope we get to do this again.
Me too. Thank you so much for the thoughtful questions and for having me. And this has been a ton of fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.